Good afternoon. Welcome all. As the scientific coordinator of the Center for Philosophy of Science of the University of Lisbon, it is my great pleasure to open the April session of our permanent seminar. Today's speaker will be Professor Ángel Nepomuceno, professor at the Universidad de Sevilla, professor jubilado agora. He founded and was the principal investigator of the group of Logic, Language and Information, GILIUS, with whom we have the honor to have many institutional partnerships, projects, PhD program, and Iberian network of philosophy of science, and others. Professor Ángel is also a member of the Mexican Academy of Logic. He has published 2 books and edit or co-edit other ones in the field of logic and philosophy of science, and 100 of papers in the same domains. I want to thank Ángel for accepting our invitation to this session. Professor Ángel is a very old and good friend of our center, and it is always a great pleasure for us to have you with us. And I hope that we can meet soon in Lisbon. So thank you, Ángel. Thank you so much for accepting our invitation. And Sylvia, now the floor is yours, please.
Thank you very much, Joan. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for being here. Thanks to Ángel for accepting our invitation. Most of you already know the rules of the seminar. Professor Ángel Nepomuceno will speak for about 45 minutes, and then we will have the Q&A session. I will moderate the Q&A session. If you want to ask a question, just write so in the chat, and I will call everybody in the due order. We are recording the presentation, and then the video of the presentation will be uploaded in the YouTube channel of the Center for Philosophy of Science of the University of Lisbon. But we do not record during the Q&A, so people can feel perfectly at ease to ask their question. So this is my short introduction. Ángel, please go ahead. The floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. First of all, I would like to thank the center and Joao and Sylvia in particular for facilitating my participation in the seminar. I have to confess that whenever I have participated in activities of the center, I have felt very comfortable. Now, this damn pandemic doesn't allow us to celebrate them in person and normally. However, with the telematic celebration, participation has been facilitated to a greater number of people. So I have to begin. Sorry. Is it well the slides?
Yes, we are seen very well.
Okay. Well, first I do an introduction after 2 points, two principal main points: scientific practice and a new paradigm in logic. Well, several questions arise when we reflect on relationships between logic and philosophy of science. As for example, this question: are logic and philosophy of science really related? Can logic contribute to the development of epistemology? Well, there are a plurality of sciences. Can we speak of a unique logic, or rather, must we also take into account a plurality of logic? Well, here in this presentation, the field of logic is considered in a broad sense. I prefer the field of logic, language, and information. Well, about that, there is a history, of course. First, we pay attention to the logical angle of the mentioned LLI triangle, and the most important role of logic in philosophy of science have played in alliance with certain philosophical schools. For example, Vienna Circle, Neo-positivism, formal language variants of analytical philosophy, among others. Well, during certain time, logic and philosophy of science have lived in harmony. So the golden age was given from 15th and continued until the 40 and somewhat the 50 of the last century. In the 60s, what came to be called philosophical logic began to flourish. Then Hintika, Gish, Kripke, Lewis, Starnaker set the agenda for philosophical discussion that are now considered mainstream. Well, among other because there were more. But let's in the center of the notion of scientific practice. Echeverria affirms that science can be considered as a set of activities whose objectives are diverse. These activities constitute scientific practices. So, as scientific practices, we consider that it is the set of relevant activities carried out by people who work in science, so long as scientists, of course. Scientific investigation is an important part of scientific practices. Well, in scientific practices, we find what we can call inferential activities, a part very important in any scientific practice. Two levels of this kind of activities may be considered. The first level, external, where inferences are about general actions of the scientific community as such, regardless of the theory in which she were working. So its character is meta-theoretical. And the other level is internal, where inferences are produced with propositions that are part of the subject under investigation. Well, what about underlying logic? The underlying logic is the system of reasoning that is used in scientific practices. In fact, regulate inferential activities. Since it is the normative system by which inferential activities are governed, it may be one relative to external inference and other one for internal inference. Both may be complementary or could be subsumed in another approach that includes them. Well, this will be specified later. Any underlying logic can be represented by means of a logical system, commonly called formal logic, symbolic logic, to abbreviate a logic. So given a formalized language, L, a logic is defined as a triadic set with a formal or formalized language, a full semantics for the language, and a mechanism of transformation of sentences. This mechanism is the consequence relation. The consequence relation is different according to the logic, the corresponding logic. But we will introduce another notion, logical link, giving a logic a set of expression of the language and a sentence file of the language. Maintain a logical link in symbol, this expression, when phi is logical consequence of gamma or they are consistent. In other cases, there is a causal relation between the two, or it is an inductive conclusion, etc. So when we have logical consequence, we have logical link, but we can have logical link without logical consequence. This is why I put note that the notion of logical link is broader than that of logical consequence. Well, a scientific theory can be analyzed in the first terms in terms of sentences of a formalized language L. So the theory is a subset of sentences of the language from this point of view. Note that this is important. Note that when L is a formal language, alien to the theory itself, each sentence of the language of the theory can be a correlate of a formula of L. In fact, a formal logic is a model of a system of reasoning. Given a sentence 5 of the language, as a theory, the same language, if I maintain a logical link with theta, with the theory, then there is a logical consequence, or it is consistent with the theory, or a causal relation is supposed, etc. In symbols, theta and phi are logical link. This is a consequence of the previous definition, of course. Well, some problem around logic. There are some problems around logic in the field of epistemology. Let's see kinds of prominent inference in scientific practices. Analytic. This is the so-called deduction. Propositions that belong to any theory are deductively justified. Well, in deduction, the truth of conclusion follows from the truth of premises, of course. But this is in a classical perspective, because from another point of view, deduction or the truth of conclusion follows in some sense from the truth of premises. For example, if we have a non-monotonic logic, this is mathesable. Well, another kind of inference, induction. Well, information that provide observations are grouped and incorporated into the corresponding theory. It is a synthetic form of reasoning. It's not deduction, of course. Abduction. Abduction is another synthetic form of reasoning. Certain conjectures are proposed as explicative hypotheses pertinent to the theory in question, but the formulation of hypothesis, or if you want, the formulation of hypothesis is not without a systematic way of work. So abduction can be seen as a typical form of reasoning in any scientific practice. One question has remained unresolved, namely whether the underlying logic for both internal and external inferences is or may be encoded in a single logic, and whether this has to be universal in nature. Bessio wondered if a universal logic is possible, understood that as a general theory of logic, analogously to the idea of a universal algebra. If so, it should be possible to introduce a very general concept about logic and obtain general results. Well, reducing the requirements of the preceding definition, starting from a language L and a consequent relation, a logic is nothing more than a preorder. That say, reflexivity and transitivity are accomplished. But a logical link is more general. It's possible that the transitivity doesn't accomplish, for example. Then the interrelationship of theories and underlying logics could be analyzed not only by means of a logical consequence relation, but also combining that with links, logical link, that is more general. Well, what about then the role of classical logic? Is classical logic the most suitable for these purposes? Well, classical logic is a deductive logic whose principles are the known bivalence, if sentence is true or false, exclusive third for any sentence, such sentence ought or its negation. There is a mistake. It's true. Non-contradiction. It is not possible the conjunction of a sentence with its negation, etc. What is more, some inference rules of classical logic are of universal use. Example, modus ponens, modus tollens, etc. So it seems that classical logic is very general. No, but classical logic cannot give into account of induction. Classical logic doesn't explain directly abductive processes. So there are very serious limits. But an emergence of a new paradigm in logic have been in the last century. These words are of a work published by Paul Gauchet. Well, it is in the reference. The invention of a game theoretic semantics by Hintika in the 70s can be described as the emergence of a new paradigm, not only for semantics, but also for logic and the philosophy of mathematics. Well, this new paradigm is very important, and I think that it must have into account in every approach from an epistemological point of view. Consequence of the dynamic Turing logic. Well, it has aroused greater interest in non-classical logics and their application and contributed to the development of non-classical logics. Two have been the main lines of action after the dynamic turn. Logic is considered as a kind of game. On the other hand, logical dynamics of information and representation as a vast program of investigation that we have. We will put our attention in this last. Well, only for remember some non-classical logic, modal logic, in fact, a family, modal logics in plural, of extension of of classical logic. Epistemic logic, well, is of the family of modal logics. In epistemic logic, modal operators are understood with epistemic character, and there is a doxastic logic. Temporal logic with temporal operators is another modal logic. Intuitionistic logic and paraconsistent logic, they are deviants, or how do you say? Well, they are not extension, but alternatives to classical logic. Dynamic logic, which, another mistake, which studies facts and actions. Quantum logic, etc. This is to point out the most important. Well, I said that logical dynamics of information and representation was a vast program. Yes, a vast program of investigation that incorporates phenomena of fluxes of information as fundamental in developing logical theory. This is an example, an inference very common in classical logic, the disjunctive syllogism, that we can see from the perspective of dynamic of information and representation. Given A or B and not B, we know that in classical logic, we can conclude A. Let's see how the inferential process takes place. Well, not an information state can be expressed through the basic proposition that appear in the context in question. For A and B, for example, that both of them are true is a possibility. That A is true and B fails, we can write A, not B, etc. Well, the initial information having two basic proposition A, B is given by four possible states, or if you want better, for four possible situations. A, B, A, not B, not A, B, and not A, not B. But according to the first premise, A or B, information changes, and the state not A, not B has to be removed because the premise says A or B, remember. Then, when we have the second one, the second premise, A, not B, the second one, yes, A, not B, the state A, B, and not A, B have to be removed. So only state A, not B remains. As the second premise was not B, we had the only possible conclusion is A. Well, as Van Vensen says in his book, informational processes should be within the compass of logic. So logical system should account for informational processes and perhaps others, as observation, communication, inference. All of them can occur entangled in most meaningful activities. So observation, communication, etc., it can be seen as citizens of the first category. Well, we continue with the sample. The set of information states and transition between them are necessary. And in inferential process, events rule out possibilities. In the previous example from the current information range, well, the current information range with four situations, the first event, premise A or B, rules out the possibility not A, not B, and the second one, not B, rule out A, B, and not A, B. So the final state is A, not B. A, not B, that is that corresponds to the conclusion. Well, the process may be more complex. It could be taking into account public social dynamics, partial and differential information, self-correction and belief revision, etc. Because in scientific practice, the process of the inferential process are more complex, of course. It's not so simple that to use only modus polling, modus tollens, and disjunctive syllogism. No. It's more complex. The activities, the inferential activity are more. Well, but I mentioned it before, games. So a question, games or logical dynamics? Well, the answer is unequivocal. The function of what? Ideas. Since every logical situation looks like a step in a certain game, subject to certain rules. For example, if you love the chess rules of the game, properly speaking, regulate how the pieces should be moved, the bishop diagonally, the rooks perpendicular, in all directions, the queen in all directions, and the strategic rules, which are the best moves in each situation. For example, how to attack or defend the pieces, how to recover the eliminated one, etc. In the same way, the particle rules relative to logical cognitive regulate the behavior of cognitive. In fact, particle rules are rules of the game rules. The other ones are structural or strategic rules, allow establishing which application of the above are the most appropriate, what rules should be applied first, what hypothesis should be raised for certain tests, and so on. So logical dynamics and the consideration of rational action as a game are complementary points of view. Well, another discourse, in this case, of Johann van Benzen. Logician promises land, like Canaan. Well, he says, like Canaan in the Old Testament, it is densely settled by other nations, such as philosophers, computer scientists, or economists, worshipping other gods such as probability or game theory. Can we dispose of them? Indeed, we must not. Rational agency is a deep subject, calling for all the help we can. I think logic has fresh insights to offer beyond what is already there, but it has not favored position. Polytheism is a civilized idea. I do predict new fruitful liaisons between logic and its neighbors. Well, this is a work of Johann van Benzen that we now have to explain minimally what is the dynamic epistemic logic. Well, it is the cornerstone of the dynamic point of view. We can say that, in short, it is epistemic logic and action, or plus actions. It's an extension of classical logic. Well, inductive syntax with a language L, with K as a knowledge operator, B as belief operator, and negation, conjunction, disjunction, and material implication connective. This is the inductive definition, or the rule that identifies in short, the syntaxis of this language. The most important is that we have propositional letters in order to express in the formal language the atomic proposition. Negation of any formula is a formula. Conjunction of two formulas is a formula. Disjunction of two formulas is a formula. The material implication between two formulas is a formula. And the this expression and this expression, the two last expression say respectively that the agent knows phi, and the agent believes phi. Of course, if something is not clear, you can interrupt me. I think it's no problem. This language, to finish this part more formal, this language is interpreted with models of possible world or state. So a model is composed by a set of non-empty worlds or states. The only condition is that it not empty. Rk is a relation defined in this set, the previous set. In the case of Rk, the relation is commonly reflexive, symmetrical, and transitive. And R sub B is another relation, but the only condition is that it's a serial relation. That to say, is well defined for every element of the set of words or states. There is one word that is related with the. On the other hand, phi is a subset of words in which phi is true. K phi is true in a model from S as point of observation is a member of the set of words. If and only if for every word that is related with the first one by means of the mentioned relation, then phi is true in the model with W as point of its observation. And similar with respect to the other relation and the operator of Believ. Well, we have the tool in order to define epistemic logic and then a dynamic epistemic logic. And I have written here the more common actions to inference, to do inference in this system. The basic actions are these schemas. The first one is the axiom of normality, according to which both operators are distributed with respect to the connective material implication. That's to say, if phi, then he is known by the agent, then if the agent knows phi, then the agent knows he. Similar to if phi implies he is believed by the agent, then if the agent believes phi, then the agent believes he. The second axiom is the axiom of veridicality. Well, he pointed out that he says that the known is the case. If the agent knows phi, phi is the case. Phi is a fact. Well, this supposes a conception of knowledge very particular, because if something, if someone know, the agent know a fact, this fact is in the world. Two important axioms that are used represent introspection. In the first case, we can see the positive introspection. For example, if I know elemental arithmetics, I know that I know elemental arithmetics. So it's a way of linking a kind of knowledge, factual knowledge, with knowledge of second grade. The same with belief. If the agent believes phi, then he or she believes that he or she believes phi. Well, the negative introspection is very similar, but with those that it is not known or it is not believed. For example, if I example, I don't know square root with complex number, but then I know that I don't know blah 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 blah. Similar to the belief operator. If the agent doesn't believe phi, then he or she believes that he doesn't believe phi. Well, from a philosophical point of view, it may be dissociate a discussion. Someone doesn't accept this action. In fact, in computer sciences, in artificial intelligence, etc., are well actions, that permits to advance in this subject. Well, the first, sorry, the last one, sorry, is to point out that beliefs have to be consistent. That to say, if the agent believes phi, then he cannot believe that the negation of phi. Well, we have epistemic logic, but not dynamic. But we can incorporate actions. How to incorporate actions? Well, there are several kinds of actions that can be incorporated to epistemic logic, as observation, verification, etc. Giving a formula phi, an action from that can be represented in this way, phi plus. Then an inductive definition is as follows. How can we define action? Well, this is the basic action, and the union, or the union is an election. The conjunction and the repetition. Well, pi union pi prime stands for do either action pi or action pi prime. This other one, first do pi and then pi prime. And pi asterisk stands for repeat by a finite number of times. Then, if we write this expression, we should read it at after every action he proves, phi holds, while taking into account the logical consequence in the corresponding logic. Well, in scientific action, an important well, in this point we will study. I have 10 minutes or so. Yes, I have to present a unified framework for underlying logic. In scientific practice, an important process is the so-called belief revision or epistemic change. There are three main epistemic actions in belief revision: expansion, construction, and revision. The AGM model studied that 30 years ago. This is very studied, and only to say that there are principles in order to regulate expansion, the contraction, and revision. This is, for example, if we have an expansion of zeta by means of phi, phi belongs to this expansion. Any initial set of sentences is enclosed, is a part or is a subject of the new subject after the expansion with phi, etc. In contraction, there are other. For example, if we apply contraction phi over zeta, after the contraction, the new set is a subset of the initial set, etc. In order to revision is defined as a double action. Revision of zeta by means of phi is equal to a contraction with not phi, and then an expansion with phi. But the three epistemic action can be defined in terms of epistemic dynamic logic. For example, for expansion, this expression can be read as after expansion phi, after expansion with phi, x holds, or taking into account a background theory zeta with the corresponding consequence relation. Contraction, after contraction with phi, he holds. And revision, after revision with phi, he holds. So we can, the AGM model, we can change to a part of epistemic action with precisely these three actions: expansion, contraction, and revision. Well, this is very, very quickly, because this is a representation theory from a background theory and a logic with the corresponding DAL. We can say that after expansion with phi, after expansion with phi, phi is the case, is satisfied by the theory, and so on. This is after the contraction with phi, not phi is the case, is not a logical consequence of the initial background theory. And this is for revision in the two forms of expression that. Well, now a general schema of explanation. This is very important because we can say that for any scientific practice, we can present general schemas independently that the underlying logic was classical logic or epistemic logic or so on. Whatever the system of logic may be, from a background theory zeta, a general schema of explanation phi is expressed as a default rule. This is in Gaetan 2019. The schema is delta, beta 1, beta n, phi. Delta represents the prerequisite. It may be that delta was a formula or an expression, a sentence that is logical consequence of the background theory. But it may be, or it could be a process. It is not circumscribed to an inference. For example, it may be a process. Beta I maintains a logical link with zeta. This beta maintains a logical link with the background theory. Every beta is not an element of zeta, but maintain a logical link. These betas are called justifications, and phi is finally the consequence of the general schema of explanation. Well, now an example, a simple example that is very frequent in the literature about logic of default or default logics is that it can be suitable for present the idea. Giving a theory, zeta with only a proposition, all normal birds fly. So we say that zeta is an element of capital zeta. An observation, pen, for penguin. Pen doesn't fly. We represent by means of not phi. Justification, not any bird is normal. Not beta. Explicative schema. After the observation of no phi, zeta is the case. That's to say, after observation of not phi, zeta is the case, is a logical consequence of zeta. So the observation, in principle, have not changed anything. But we have not any bit is normal that can be obtained. Taking that as justification, we can conclude not phi, and then the fact can be added to the theory. Well, but suppose that in the same scenario, after another mistake, after observation, in classical terms, by contraposition, if x doesn't fly, then x is not normal, or it is not bird, represented as an implication. It may be a justification. Then we have this schema, this explicative schema. After the observation, zeta is the case, is a logical consequence of the theory. With justification, x implies psi, we can obtain not beta, can be explained not beta, that was, remember, not any bit is normal. Not that zeta maintains with x, with he implies psi, a logical link, because he implies psi is logical consequence of zeta, in this case, in classical terms. So in this case, this schema expresses that a new rule has been obtained. Namely, not any bird is normal. Well, in order to clarify with the example more things, suppose the same theory and observation. Taking pen is a bird represented by rho. This is a justification. Now we are seeing another schema. Representing pen is normal as lambda. Well, it can conclude pen is not normal. Conclude by means of this schema, represent this conclusion by means of this schema. After the observation, zeta is the case, is logically implied by zeta, by the theory. That's to say, is a logical consequence of the theory. Taking this process and rho as justification, rho, pen is a bird, we can conclude by means of this schema not lambda. That's to say, pen is not normal. On the other hand, if we consider the expansion of the theory with the observed fact, then after expansion with not phi, not lambda is the case, is a logical consequence of zeta. We continue with the same example. Zeta asterisk is zeta enlarged with pen is a bird and pen is normal, represented by rho and lambda respectively. Then before observing not phi, that's to say pen doesn't fly, it is verified that lambda is a logical consequence of zeta asterisk, but not phi, lambda is the case, is not a logical consequence of the asterisk. However, after revision with not lambda, it is verified that after revision with not lambda is the case, a logical consequence of the theory. Now the theory enlarged, the enlarged theory in this expression or in the equivalent expression. So we can say that by means of dynamic, these schemas, on the one hand, we have a global description of the explanation of how to add new sentences to given theories, but might need the logic, epistemic logic, the epistemic dynamic logic as underlying logic in the corresponding scientific practice. Well, this is a simple example, but I believe that I think is illustrative of the idea. Well, to finish, concluding remarks. Well, the underlying logic should account for both internal and external inference, taking into account this game of general schema that I have presented. Dynamic epistemic logic is revealed as a good representative system of some scientific practices. Its combination with general schemas offers a framework for epistemological analysis of both types of inferences. Certain concrete practices can be considered with dynamic epistemic logic. An example is the underlying logic in quantum mechanics in this work that was published in a volume of the Center. Likewise, the inclusion of new operators, design, tensions, other modal operators like time, prohibition, authorization, new action, verification, contrast, etc., should be explored, of course. Well, that's what we have finishing. I have several references included in 2 slides. Well, if you want, I didn't say that, but if you want, I can pass the slides for the use in the pupil of the center, etc. Pleased to meet you. Thank you very much. That's all. Obrigado.